You're listening to the Fresh Hell podcast. Fresh Hell contains stories of a disturbing and often graphic nature and is intended for a mature audience. Please don't let your kids listen to this, or they might turn out like us.
It turned to me, and it had no face.
A twisted human figure crawling like a spider.
And then all we hear is the creaking of that door.
I dismissed it as a dream.
You know, when you can just feel something is hovering right behind you.
They could see us, but we couldn't see them.
Hello, believers, non-believers, and everyone in between. I'm Sapphire Sandalo. As a Filipino-American who's been obsessed with the supernatural my entire life, I've always been disappointed by the lack of diversity in the paranormal community. So I created Stories with Sapphire, an award-winning podcast that is on a mission to share more multicultural stories about ghosts, folklore, and spirituality from an empathetic point of view. Even if you're not a believer, I hope my show inspires you to look at the world a little differently. New episodes every other Wednesday wherever you listen to podcasts. And in between those weeks, I release a spooky animated video on my YouTube channel. Head over to storieswithsapphire.com for more information. That's Sapphire, Sapphire. Salamat and good night.
Hi, I'm Annie in the US.
And I'm Johanna from Austria, and you're listening to your favorite international podcast. You just heard Stories with Sapphire, an amazing podcast hosted by Sapphire, who just won the People's Choice Podcast Award in the Best Asian Podcast category. Congratulations, Sapphire. We are beyond thrilled, and it is a well-deserved win. We were so excited for you.
Congratulations.
So please go check out her podcast.
Yeah, definitely. It's amazing.
Speaking of the People's Choice Podcast Award, once more, thank you so much for everyone who voted for us this year. We are really blown away by all your support. Unfortunately, we didn't win this year, but the competition was just amazing, and it was an absolute honor to be even nominated and make it onto the final slate. Also, as you heard before, Annie is back.
I'm back. I am so happy to be back. I have so much to tell you about, but later I'll fill you in maybe at the end. Because right now we want to give a very special shout out to our newest Patreon members. And they are Janet Shepard. Thank you very much, Janet. Hazel Everett. Thank you, Hazel. Ashley. I love the dog in your profile picture, Ashley. Thank you very much. Faye Ferguson, thank you. And Melissa and John Bounier, I think is that maybe how the name is pronounced. Thank you both very much. We are so grateful. These are all murder tier patrons. And that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I have to tell you, all of your murder tier stickers are on your way, except for Melissa and John, because you signed up the day after I sent out the latest batch. But don't worry, you're gonna get yours in the next batch that I'm gonna send out.
Fantastic.
All the others are on their way.
Yay.
One last thing before we start. Please don't forget to send us your story for the annual Halloween special. You'll have 2 more weeks to get your story to us. Please send it to freshhellpodcast@gmail.com, and please let us know how we should address you. Also, we got the ghost roommate story back. Thank you for that. I'm so sorry again that I deleted it, but it's back. It's back.
I'm just amazed you deleted it and not me. I sincerely try to not even touch the email. That's how afraid I am of deleting everything.
I wanted to bookmark it, and you know how on iPhone you have to like slide to the left, and then you have like bookmark or delete. Yep. And so I don't know. I
do it all the time. It's literally the reason I don't touch anything. I'm just kidding.
Well, listen, then I went into the trash folder and I wanted to get it back from there, and I deleted again, so it was gone forever. And I'm like, how does it even happen? Well, anyway, it's back. It's back.
Welcome to my world. All right. Okay, Hellions. Spooky fuckery season is upon us. And just like every year, the whole month of October is going to be episodes on the spooky and scary Halloween-y side of topics, right? If that's not your cup of tea, we know some of you hate the haunty stuff. We get it. Just make sure to come back for the first episode in November.
Yes.
All right. Today, we're going to talk about haunted roads. This idea came from an article that we read a while back. And because we have so many listeners that are into motorcycle touring, road trips in the car, and of course, people who drive for a living, that we thought this episode would maybe give all of you some new food for thought.
Yeah. And I know we already did part of an episode about hauntings on roads, a woman in white who haunts drivers in Austria and Mexico, among other places. That's a very popular haunting, I think, the woman in white. But today, these are more diverse hauntings.
Yeah.
All right, where should we start? How about Croatia? The E3 motorway. The E3 motorway in Croatia is also known as the Slavonia motorway, and it's a crucial transportation artery that plays a pivotal role in connecting various regions of the country. It stretches over 300 kilometers, so that's more than 109 miles, from the Croatian capital city of Zagreb to the eastern city of Lipovac, near the Serbian border. The motorway is part of the larger European route E70, linking Budapest in Hungary to the Adriatic Sea. This strategic location positions the A3 as a vital link in the transportation network of Southeast Europe, facilitating trade, tourism, and overall economic development. The street was initially planned as a link between Zagreb and Belgrade and constructed in the late 1940s, originally named the Brotherhood and Unity Highway. The 382-kilometer road was completed on July 27, 1950, initially as a single carriage with 2 lanes and at grade intersections.
A single carriageway with 2 lanes and at grade intersections would just mean a road with 1 lane in each direction. So that's how it would have started.
Nearly 300,000 Yugoslavian youth, including soldiers, contributed to its construction. It was designed to handle 9,000 vehicles daily, and of course, we know how traffic is today, so the road faced congestion issue by 1971 already, leading to plans for its conversion into a 4-lane motorway. Despite political upheavals, the Zagreb-Belgrade motorway plans persisted, and by 1977, construction on the present A3 motorway commenced with the Zagreb bypass. The initial 6-lane sections were completed by 1981, with subsequent expansions involving both widening the existing road and constructing entirely new sections. The A3 motorway witnessed multiple extensions, but construction was disrupted by the Croatian War of Independence in 1991, leading to the closure of the Novska Nova Gradiška section. Post-war reconstruction efforts addressing battle damage, mine clearance, and pavement reconstruction were crucial for restoring the motorway. Resuming development in 1996, the A3 saw several extensions to the east and the west. By 2006, the A3 was fully operational with an estimated investment value of 7 billion Croatian kuna, that's 1 billion euros. And I'm talking about American billions, not European billions. That's sometimes confusing to people.
What does that mean?
For you, a billion is 1,000 millions.
Okay.
We call that a miliarde.
Oh.
For us here in Europe, a billion is a million millions.
I had no idea.
Yeah. That's
to be
why
fair,
have billionaires.
Yeah, to be fair, working on sums in the billions isn't really something that comes into play in my life very often. So I had no idea.
Yeah.
Huh.
But that's why the cost of 1 billion euros for this motorway, or 7 billion kunas, made it apparently one of the least expensive motorways in Croatia. And if it would be the European understanding of 1 billion euros, it would be quite an expensive motorway. So that's the difference.
Right.
Also, the completion of the A3 motorway not only symbolizes the resilience of Croatia's infrastructure development, but also serves as a critical component in the regional transportation network, and it's very important for the economic growth and connectivity. One of the notable features of the A3 motorway is its contribution to reducing travel time between key cities. Obviously, that's why motorways were built everywhere in the first place, right? To go from one place to another faster than before. And this has not only improved the daily lives of commuters, but has also enhanced the economic integration of the regions along the motorway.
Sure.
The A3 is well designed, featuring multiple lanes, modern interchanges, and state-of-the-art toll collection systems. The quality of the road infrastructure adheres to international standards, ensuring safety and comfort for motorists. I love that word, by the way. Additionally, rest areas, service stations, and other amenities are strategically located along the route, providing travelers with necessary facilities and contributing to a positive overall experience. I'm sounding like I'm doing this kind of commercial for the
great
A3
Asian
motorway.
pastime of karaoke.
Despite its successes, challenges, of course, persist. Maintenance and continuous improvements are essential to ensure the A3 motorway remains as reliable and efficient as it is right now. Additionally, ongoing efforts to enhance safety measures, implement smart transportation technologies, and address environmental considerations are crucial for the sustainable development of this critical infrastructure. I think that's something that goes not only for all of Europe, but probably it's the same in the US, right?
Yeah.
All right, enough with the promotion of the A3 motorway, because of course we're not here for just some interesting background knowledge of European highways.
We're not here for it. We're just...
We are here. Well, one of these days in a pub quiz, it's going to come up.
That's right. It's the A3, everyone. It's the A3.
We are here for some hauntings, ghosts, apparitions, whatever you want to call it. And the A3 is supposedly one of the most haunted highways in the world. Even though the occurrences in question only happen on a very short section of the road between Staro Petrovo Selo and Nova Gradiška. That's an 11-kilometer or 6.8 miles long part of the A3. And it's said to be haunted or cursed, we'll see, because of the unusually high number of accidents and paranormal encounters. Drivers experience hallucinations and inexplicable apparitions while driving on the section. Some sources say that over time there have been 2,293 accidents, 54 deaths, and 180 serious injuries on those 11 kilometers. I have to say, to me that sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
But I tried to find different sources for that claim, and everything I found linked back to a dead link on In Serbia info/news. I would have loved to find official statistics to verify, but of course I could only find general stats to accidents on Croatian streets per year, not for individual segments on highways. This is from the Croatian Bureau of Statistics. Quote, in 2022 there were 10,005 road traffic accidents with casualties in the Republic of Croatia, which was 9.4% more than in 2021. A total of 275 persons were killed, which was 17 participants or 5.8% less than in 2021. The number of the injured participants totaled 13,329, which was 1,411 or 11.8% more than in 2021. So it's more accidents with less people being killed, which is a good thing.
More injuries, fewer deaths. Yeah.
So if these numbers about the accident on the 11-kilometer segment of the A3 are true, then yes, I'd say that's a lot of accidents, even if it's over the whole period of existence. It's just very hard to verify. But what is definitely true is that people died there, and among them 2 celebrities, which caused even more people to believe that there is something wrong with this street. One of the celebrities was Toše Proeski, whose full name was Todor Proeski, and he was a Macedonian singer, songwriter, and actor. Toše Proeski gained widespread recognition and popularity not only in North Macedonia, but also in the broader Balkan region for his very powerful and emotive singing voice. He began his music career at a young age and participated in various music festivals, earning accolades for his performances. And his music encompassed various genres, including pop, rock, and the traditional Macedonian music. Toše's big breakthrough came in 2004 when he represented North Macedonia in the Eurovision Song Contest with the song Life. His performance garnered significant attention and he became one of the most beloved and successful artists in the region, but not just because of his music, but also because of his humanitarian work and his contribution to various charitable causes. Unfortunately, his life was cut short. On the morning of 16th of October 2007, Toše was in a car with his producer and a driver. And Toše was actually sleeping in the front passenger seat of the car when the vehicle collided with a truck. The driver, who had suffered severe head injuries, had fallen asleep and lost control of the car, and the airbags didn't deploy, and Toše was severely injured and he died at the scene of the accident. He was only 26 years old at the time. The producer had only sustained minor injuries, and immediately after the accident, the police launched a campaign against speeding on the highway, which had the slogan, "Not faster than life," featuring Toše Proeski's photo on banners. His death was a big shock for the people of Macedonia. Upon the announcement of the death, people gathered in central squares to mourn, and the parliament even observed a minute of silence and suspended its work afterward. Both the president and the prime minister issued statements expressing their condolences, and television stations in Macedonia interrupted their programming to report on the tragedy. The day of the funeral was declared a national day of mourning in Macedonia. But Toše was not the only celebrity to die on the A3. On 23rd of October 2013, the Croatian actress Dolores Lambaša suffered severe injuries that led to her death in an accident on the A3. This accident occurred only a few meters from where Toše had lost his life 5 years earlier, also in October, which makes it even more eerie in a way. What is it that drivers report from the A3? Some say that their car was pulled in the opposite direction by a mysterious force, that they lost concentration or even consciousness, that they lost radio signals, that the electronics in the car started to act up, and, of course, the classic, a ghost. In the case of the A3 motorway, it's a little girl ghost who wanders on the side of the road, but she will disappear if you stop and try to help her.
Nope. No, thank you. No. That's awful. Because what are you supposed to do? Not stop for a child on the side of the road?
Exactly.
God, that's the worst. Why? Oh.
Well, but at least she doesn't just appear in your car like the lady
that's
in
worse.
white.
Yeah. For sure. That's worse.
What could be the reason for the mysterious and tragic happenings on the A3? Well, first of all, there is the rumor that when the street was built, material was scarce, and so old gravestones and old monuments were ground up and used to pave the street. And not only that, but that the young workers who helped to build the road mocked the people whose gravestones had been used. And we all know that this kind of nonsense definitely will lead to some spooky fuckery.
Mm-hmm.
There are also people who blame underground water or unidentified dark forces under the surface for the accident, and that's what's causing the drivers to hallucinate. Now, is any of this explanation true? Who can say? But it definitely does make for a good story.
Yeah, that it does. It's really sad, too. Like 26 years old and...
Very sad. Very sad.
All right, let's move over to the USA. And I know many of you are now thinking or hoping that I'm going to talk about New Jersey's Clinton Road, but we think that one probably deserves a standalone episode at some point.
Yeah, I see. So there's a lot going on there.
There's so much happening. What's happening, New Jersey? We're going to talk about it another time. Today, I'm going to talk about an area a little bit closer to home, and that is Jeremy Swamp Road in Southbury, Connecticut, a town located in western New Haven County. Of course, like most places in the U.S., Southbury has a rich history, and it starts, of course, with the Native Americans. The land used to belong to the Putatuck tribe, who historically inhabited parts of what's now southwestern Connecticut, particularly along the Housatonic River. We think it's Putatuck, P-O-O-T-A-T-U-C-K. The Putatuck, like many indigenous groups, were part of the Algonquin-speaking peoples in the region. They were likely semi-sedentary, relying on a combination of hunting, fishing, and agriculture for their subsistence. The fertile land along the Housatonic River provided them with resources to sustain their communities. Of course, with the arrival of European colonists in the early 17th century, particularly English settlers, the Putatuck, like many Native American groups in the region, encountered significant changes to their way of life. European diseases, changes in land use, and encroachment by settlers had profound impact on the Putatuck population and their cultural practices. Over time, European settlers negotiated various land transactions with the Putatuk people, often resulting in the displacement of native communities from their ancestral land. Land sales and treaties were complex processes with different perspectives on land ownership and usage. The same goes for Southbury. The settlement was built on land parcels acquired from the Putatuk. The Southbury Ecclesiastical Society constructed a meeting house in 1733, leading to the town's incorporation in 1787, primarily within New Haven County, despite its initial affiliation with Litchfield County. During the 1800s, the growth of Southbury's industries, encompassing mills, tanneries, and distilleries, relied on water power from the Housatonic and neighboring rivers. However, with the Industrial Revolution, many businesses relocated to Waterbury. What's also interesting about Southbury is in the 1920s, Count Ilya Tolstoy and George Grebinshchikov established the Cherevka Artist Colony on Main Street, attracting Russian expatriates, including composer Sergei Rachmaninoff. Although the immigrant population has diminished, the St. Sergius Chapel, designed by Nicholas Roich, remains a historic landmark. In 1937, concerns arose when Wolfgang Jung, associated with the German-American Bund, purchased land with plans to build their largest training facility. The German-American Bund was basically a group of German immigrants or Americans with German heritage who supported Adolf Hitler. The leader of the German-American Bund, a man named Fritz Kuhn, was known to be one of the worst anti-Semites in the United States. But the people of Southbury were like, get the fuck out of here with your problematic behavior. And they just very quickly enacted zoning laws that prohibited military activities, which caused the Bund to abandon the project. So Southbury's history shifted with the interstate highway systems development, especially I-84, Interstate 84, which opened in 1963, connecting the town to New York and Hartford. The construction of the Heritage Village in 1967 and IBM's extensive office in 1987 further transformed Southbury into a diverse community, blending commercial downtown, residential neighborhoods, and rural expanses. In the early 1990s, Southbury faced a lawsuit from the Golden Hill, I think it's Paugussett, Indian Nation, seeking land claims from property holders, but the suit was dismissed in 1993 due to the plaintiff's lack of chieftain status and standing. Okay, so what is it about Jeremy Swamp Road?
Do we think it was a Jeremy and the road used to be a swamp or maybe lead to a swamp? Or was the guy's name Jeremy Swamp? Which sounds like a porn name.
Jeremy Swamp is a porn name. Is like the most, like, I just feel like everything would be very moist.
My best guess for the name is that whoever built the road named it after a family member. So it's not uncommon around here to see, for example, like Smith Street. And then if you drive down Smith Street, you'll find Jane Lane and Robert Path and, Mary Ellen Circle. And I always assume that like the Smith family originally owned that land. And then these original roads were built going to what would have been maybe like one home or farm. So I don't know in this case if it was land owned by the Jeremy family or by someone named Jeremy or a swamp where someone named Jeremy once played. There could be a more interesting backstory, and maybe someone local will be able to share it with us. But yeah, I love how every time we research one of these things, every time, without fail, a haunted road, a haunted house, a haunted castle, you can be certain it will start with, said to be one of the most haunted houses, roads, castles in the world. When we first started doing this, I'd get so excited. I'd be like, yeah, Hannah, I found the most haunted whatever. And then it'd be like, oh, so did I. Oh, so did I. And then it's like, oh, it's fine. They're all the most haunted.
Yeah. That's what it said about the A3. Said to be one of the most haunted highways in the world.
That's right. I have one of the most haunted coat closets in the world. So there. But yeah, the same goes for Jeremy Swamp Road, said to be one of the most haunted roads in the U.S., but there's definitely a lot going on there. Allegedly. Supposedly. Perhaps. So, we walked around a little bit via Street View, and there are houses, but if you drive on, Jeremy Swamp Road turns into a pretty isolated and uninhabited drive. And I could see how it would be quite spooky if you drove down there in the middle of the night, maybe alone. You maybe wouldn't want to get stuck out there all alone. Legend has it that every so often cars would break down on Jeremy Swamp Road, and they'd have to call for a tow truck. But when the tow truck would arrive, the driver who had called them was nowhere to be found. And no, they didn't simply get their car running again and drive away before roadside assistance could get there. The car was there, not working, but the driver had simply vanished. Never to be seen again. That's creepy, right? Not a fan. But it gets worse, because what could be the reason for these disappearances? Well, according to local lore, it's the Melon Heads. I know.
I don't know why it sounds like a band from the 90s.
It does. I actually briefly looked up Melon Heads because I was certain it was a band in the 90s. But I think I'm getting...
We're thinking of Blind Melon.
Blind Melon. And then, but also... Radiohead. And then that Warhead Candy, which had melon flavor. There's a lot of 90s references confusing our brains with the Melon Heads. But let me tell you about them because I did not know. I'm in next door Massachusetts and somehow got to the age of 46 without knowing about the Melon Heads. And now I sincerely wish I didn't know about them because they are creepy. All right. Melon Heads is a term used in various urban legends and in folklore in different parts of the United States. It's particularly popular in the Midwest, Connecticut, and Ohio. And the term is associated with tales of humanoid creatures or deformed individuals with abnormally large heads resembling melons, hence the name.
Interesting. I would have thought aliens.
Yeah. I mean, could be, right? Skinny little bodies and big scary melon heads. I don't like it.
And also, are they melons like watermelons or like, the more football, like American football shaped melons?
So the specific details vary, but here's some of the basics that we could find. So they're typically described as having large, hairless heads, sometimes compared to watermelon or other melon. The rest of their bodies may appear small or emaciated. So I'm imagining very much like the Greys, aliens, like the little bodies and the really big heads. I don't like it. Where did they come from? That's a good question. Different versions of the legend attribute the origins of melon heads to different causes. Some stories say that they are the result of inbreeding, experimentation, or genetic mutation. So there's a lot of possibility there. In some versions, they are said to be the offspring of escaped mental patients or individuals affected by medical experiments gone wrong. According to lore, the melon heads live in secluded or wooded areas, and in some versions, they are said to inhabit abandoned buildings, caves, or other remote locations. Melon heads are sometimes depicted as hostile or reclusive, avoiding contact with humans.
Can't blame them.
No, humans are the worst. In some versions, they are said to be aggressive and may attack those who come too close to their territory.
This all sounds very Wrong Turn, if you know the movie that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Over here, I never feel weird or scared when I'm driving in the woods at night. I even walk the dogs in the dark.
Yeah.
Next to a wooded area. I don't have any problem with that, right?
Yeah.
Or if I stop at a rest station at night. No problem at all. But when we did the road trip in the US, I very clearly have seen too many horror movies in my life set in rural areas in the US because I got super scared when we drove through some very secluded streets, rural secluded streets in Alabama at 4 o'clock in the morning. And another time I had to pee real bad. And so my very well-meaning husband stopped at a rest stop, one of those that was just, a parking lot and some restrooms, not the ones with a gas station or a restaurant.
Just a big old room full of stalls with cracks in the door and murderers hiding behind every single one.
And there were a couple of trucks parked there. The driver's probably resting. And I swear to God, I just couldn't get myself to get out of the car and use the restroom. I told my husband to please not go pee himself, but to keep driving and look for a gas station or a restaurant that was open. It was very... didn't like that.
No, I get it. I also feel substantially less scared walking in the country at night when I'm in Europe, or just this past few weeks, Ireland and in the UK. I think that's all very valid. Also, I think you just have less wildlife to kill you, whereas the Africans, the North and South Americans, and the Aussies are just cursed with constant vigilance, like drop bears and 30 to 50 feral hogs around every corner. You don't know.
We killed a lot of wildlife back in medieval times and onwards, but the wolf is making a comeback, and we have boars here. That's the one thing I always worry when I'm walking the dogs.
The dogs is a boar. Boars are scary, for sure. So this is all very scary. It's also very interesting how many different kinds of kind of canonical lore you see in urban legends in these stories, kind of. Do you know what I mean? It's like escaped mental patients or...
Mm-hmm. It's always the same kind of 5 tropes.
Exactly. Yeah. But like most of these stories, they've originated as a form of local mythology, cautionary tales, urban folklore, meant to scare people, which makes them perfect for October. So then we found a great article by our favorite, well, one of my favorites, the New England Historical Society. So I wanted to read you some of what they had to say about the Melon Heads because it's interesting and creepy. All right. This is from the New England Historical Society. Quote, "Stories about deformed country people who keep to themselves go back at least a century to Europe. For example, a large family of Melon Heads supposedly once lived in Bavaria, Germany in the mid-19th century. An inbred family of Melon Heads, known as Weeble Heads, were said to live outside Roosbury, England around 1900. Melon Head stories surfaced in Connecticut after World War II, a time when people moved away from cities into the suburbs. They probably reflect the New York ex-urbanites' prejudice and fear of isolated rural folk. But how did Melon Heads end up in Connecticut? One theory claims they came from a family accused of witchcraft and banished into the wilderness, where they survived and inbred. Through centuries of inbreeding, they mutated into Melon Heads. According to another theory, the Melon Heads escaped from Fairfield Hills Hospital, a now abandoned mental institution, or Gardner Correctional Institute, which specializes in inmates with mental health problems. Both are in Newtown, Connecticut. A variation on that theme has the Melon Heads escaping from an unnamed mental institution in the 1960s. The building supposedly burned, some of the inmates escaped and turned to cannibalism, which caused their heads to swell. Similar Melon Head stories also surface in Ohio and Michigan. An evil Dr. Crow supposedly conducted experiments on orphans in Kirtland, Ohio. The children escaped, burned down the orphanage, and retreated into the woods. According to legend, back in the 1980s, a group of girls from Notre Dame High School in Fairfield decided to drive around after a Friday night football game. They piled into a blue Granada and ended up on Velvet Street in Trumbull, where they looked for the Melon Heads. The girls parked the car, leaving the headlights on, and ventured into the woods. After they'd walked a couple hundred feet, they heard the car door slam. Then, the engine started, and the car headed toward them. They could see figures inside, the size of children. They had large heads, rags for clothes, and an orange glow in their eyes. Some say the Melon Heads still drive around in that blue Granada.
It was creepy till that last, some say that last one. Sometimes. Other, less detailed stories describe mysterious figures in the woods. Workers who paved Sawmill City Road in Shelton claimed they heard voices in the woods. Tree experts, checking the woods for fungal infestation, thought they saw strange figures lurking in the underbrush. That's creepy. That also could be the start of the porn.
Starring Jeremy Swan.
I'm just here looking for any fungal infestation in your underbrush. Oh, no. All right. If you want to look for the Melon Heads yourself, and I sincerely suggest you don't, because they sound like aliens to me, and aliens are scary, but here's a list of Melon Head roads in southwestern Connecticut. This is all still courtesy of the New England Historical Society. So, you've got Edmonds Road in Oxford, Velvet Street in Trumbull and Monroe, Zion Hill Road in Milford, and then the roads around Lake Mohegan in Fairfield, Marginal Road in New Haven, Jeremy Swamp Road in Southbury, and paths and roads in and around Roosevelt Forest in Stratford. End quote. We also found accounts of visitors of Jeremy Swamp Road who talk about seeing floating orbs, feeling the presence of entities, and even one who communicated with one of them. And we will link to more information in our sources if you want to read more.
Also, if you go to New Haven looking for Melon Heads and you then are in the mood for some absolute fantastic cakes and cupcakes and whatnot, go visit Sweet Mary's in New Haven, Connecticut. They are closed right now, but I think they will reopen really soon. Tell them Johanna from Austria sends you.
How do you
A friend of mine runs that. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
All right, let's travel to Asia, to Hong Kong to be exact, and there you'll find the Tuen Mun Road, a major expressway in Hong Kong and said to be one of the most haunted streets in the world. The Tuen Mun Road runs through the new territories, linking the Tuen Mun and Tuen Wan, I'm sorry if I mispronounce these words, I'm trying my best, Tuen Wan districts, and is approximately 20 kilometers or 12 miles long. When you hear of new territories in Hong Kong, you might think that this refers to a new urban development or something like that, but not really. In Hong Kong's context, it refers to the area acquired by the British under the Convention for the Extension of Hong Kong Territory in 1898. This refers to a large area that includes a significant portion of the northern part of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, short SAR. The new territories comprise rural and suburban areas and were historically distinct from the more urbanized Hong Kong Island. The new territories are divided into various districts and have experienced significant development over the years. The construction of the Tuen Mun Road began in the early 1970s to accommodate the rapid urban development and population growth in those new territories. Of course, over the years the road has undergone expansion and improvements to meet the increasing transportation needs of the region, and it's really also a vital transportation artery in Hong Kong, facilitating the movement of both people and goods between Tuen Mun and other parts of the territory. It plays a crucial role in connecting residential areas, industrial zones, and commercial districts. I looked at photos of the road and, of course, Street View, and I have to say it looks like a very nice drive. There are some stretches of Tuen Mun Road that offer scenic views of the surrounding landscapes, including the Tuen Mun River and the nearby hills. We'll post some photos as example in the Facebook group. Of course, there's usually a lot of traffic on Tuen Mun Road, and a lot of traffic means, unfortunately, that a lot of accidents happen. Over the 4 decades of its existence, Tuen Mun Road saw hundreds of fatal accidents, one of them being the infamous Tuen Mun Road bus accident, and this is from ChinaDaily.com from the 11th of July 2004. Quote, "Bus smash kills 21 in Hong Kong. At least 21 people died and 20 were injured Thursday in the worst road accident in Hong Kong's history. A northbound double-decker bus careered off the Tuen Mun Road near Ting Kau Bridge at about 6:30 a.m., smashed through safety barriers and plunged 35 meters into an adjacent hill slope. The 265 KMB bus carrying 40 passengers was en route to Tin Shu Wai from Kwai Chung when it was in collision with a container lorry. The bus apparently landed on its front, which was ripped open. Some passengers were thrown out of the vehicle, while most were trapped inside. 19 passengers were found dead when 200 policemen, firemen, and paramedics arrived. 1 injured passenger and the bus driver were certified dead in hospital, while 2 men and a woman remain in critical condition. 14 others, 7 men and 7 women, are in serious condition, while the remaining 3, including a 9-year-old girl, are reported to be stable. Chief Executive Tung Chee-hwa visited the crash scene 3 hours after the accident. Expressing his deep shock and grief, he ordered all departments concerned to carry out exhaustive investigations into the tragedy and every effort to prevent similar accidents from occurring again. Quote, "This has been a very devastating and painful accident for all of us," Tung told reporters. "The priority right now is to get on with the rescue work." End quote. The police and the bus company have formed their respective task forces to probe the accident. The lorry driver, a 53-year-old man, was arrested after the accident for allegedly causing death by dangerous driving. The 1.1 meter high safety barriers at the crash scene were too low to hold back a 4.3 meter high double-decker bus. Lo Kok Quinn, a mechanical engineering academic from City University, said in an interview with cable TV in Hong Kong. He suggested they should be raised to 2 meters. Countering these remarks at a press conference, Secretary for the Environment, Transport and Work Sarah Liao said the effectiveness of safety barriers has nothing to do with their height. She asserted that the barriers at the crash scene meet international standards. End quote.
I don't know. I think on behalf of the many, many families grieving loved ones killed when that bus wasn't remotely deterred by those barriers, I'd have to say fuck off with your met the standards bullshit. That's like...
It's very low. I think it's a very low. I know it's in meters, and I didn't convert but it's very low.
It would be for like a sedan.
Yeah.
Like a Honda Civic, no problem. A double-decker bus, big fucking problem. Yeah.
So there have been many horrible accidents on those 20 kilometers or 12 miles of road, and this caused locals to believe that the expressway is haunted. The stories are all very similar. Ghosts of people who died on Tuen Mun Road can be seen walking in the middle of the road, appearing out of thin air and causing shocked drivers to swerve and lose control of their vehicles, resulting in fatal injuries and thus producing more ghosts who then haunt the expressway. According to lore, the first ghosts to wander the road were construction workers who had died during the construction of Tuen Mun Road and who walked around there, causing accidents and creating fellow ghost walkers. It's almost like a ghostly pyramid scheme.
Sorry. It's such a problem. Stop it. Just stop it.
There should be laws against that.
That's a lot of ghosts. That's too many ghosts. And last but not least, I would like to talk briefly about the Dark Hedges in Ireland, inspired by my recent trip with my dad. Me dad. I'm in Ireland with me dad. This made me laugh. I kept accidentally, when I was messaging Johanna, for some reason, it kept autocorrecting in WhatsApp to me dad. So it just made me feel, it's just me and me dad in Ireland. It just kept making us laugh. So here we go. Dark Hedges. So the Dark Hedges is a really beautiful, picturesque avenue of beech trees. Those are what the hedges are. They're beech trees. And it's located in County Antrim, Northern Ireland. It was created in the late 18th century by the Stewart family as an avenue leading to their home, which was called Gracehill House. Originally, it was 150 trees that were planted on both sides of the road. They were beech trees that were carefully maintained and pruned in order to create that very dramatic tunnel-like effect that we see today. Nowadays, there are unfortunately way fewer trees than had been originally planted. Many have been destroyed over the centuries by disease and harsh weather. I think just recently, one of them was lost in a storm. And when I say that they're dramatic, I really mean dramatic. And I think the best way to describe them is spooky Tim Burton trees trying to scare you. When Snow White goes into that forest by herself, into the dark woods, that is totally the vibe. And it is fabulous. So we will, of course, post photos, but many of you will have an aha moment when you look at them because they're all over everything right now.
Yeah.
And if they look familiar to you, it's because they're everywhere. And also, They were used in filming Game of Thrones, like a lot of places in Northern Ireland. The Dark Hedges are featured in Season 2, Episode 1, which was called The North Remembers in Game of Thrones. And in this episode, it's the King's Road, the main highway of Westeros, where Ira Stark, played by Maisie Williams, escapes from King's Landing. Ira's disguised as a boy and travels with a group of Night Watch recruits. And as they make their way north, the Dark Hedges provides a visually striking backdrop for the scene. The intertwining branches of the beech trees creates this really atmospheric tunnel-like effect. Yeah, they're just amazing. Otherworldly atmosphere. And the fact it was featured in Game of Thrones made them a very visited tourist site all of a sudden.
It's the same thing that happened to Dubrovnik, one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been to, hands down, honestly. It was featured as King's Landing, and when I was there, it was during the height of popularity of the show, and it was Game of Thrones wherever you looked. It was all Game of Thrones tours, Game of Thrones there. It was a lot. The city was absolutely packed. I don't know if that died down a little bit. I assume.
I think so. But yeah, it was similar in Northern Ireland. So on the day of Storm Agnes, so last Wednesday in September, Colette took Dad and I from Belfast and drove us up to the North Coast to see the Giant's Causeway. And then we visited a few other really pretty local beaches and also Ballantoy Harbor, which is also known as the Iron Islands. So I just posted a video of them on my Instagram. I'm Annie_FHP for Fresh Hell Podcast. It's beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful and pouring and windy. Yeah, we visited so many places, and Colette was like, let's go visit the Dark Hedges. And I was like, I'm good. It was so windblown and rainy, and as cool as they are, that kind of scenery is kind of everywhere in Northern Ireland. At one point, I was like, are we in the Dark Hedges? Because it was just a row of beech trees on either side, so it wasn't them, but yeah. Northern Ireland is incredibly beautiful. It's like the darker, wilder cousin of the somewhat softer South, if that makes sense. I cannot wait to go back. There's so much to do. All right, so we're going to be going back and doing those hedges next time. So let's talk a little bit about the history of them and of Grace Hill House so that we will know what we're looking at when I go back. Here are the basics. In the late 16th century, a man named James Stewart received a land grant in Ballymoney, along with other Irish lands from King James I, due to his role as the king's ambassador in Turin. Unfortunately, this James Stewart never had the chance to witness the land he was bestowed, as he tragically drowned on his journey to claim it. But thank God, James had a big family, and the gifted land remained within the tenacious grasp of the Stewart family for centuries. One of the heirs was Brigadier General William Stewart, who faced financial struggles after forming a regiment in support of King William III. This endeavor led to the loss of a portion of the estate. William's son James fought alongside him, sustaining severe injuries in battle, yet still managed to father 21 children with his wife Jane. That's impressive.
That's a lot of children for one woman.
That is a lot of children for one woman. Yeah. James's son, Erwin Stewart, shifted his focus from war to matters of the soul, pursuing a career as a vicar. He married a woman named Elizabeth, and together they had 6 children. Erwin's son James initiated the construction of the property around 1775, naming it after his wife, Grace Lind. And I find it kind of poetic that the first James Stewart, who owned the land, who didn't even live to see it, that one of his descendants, also named James, made it the family home. James led a life marked by a blend of military service and familial responsibility. At one point, the family relocated to North America, and after that, the historical account of the building becomes unclear. In 1955, Major Windsor acquired the property, followed by the Gillian family in 1971. The latter transformed the entire land into a golf course. In 2015, the property changed hands once again, undergoing a comprehensive refurbishment that encompassed the entire area, including the building. You can visit the restaurant there or have your wedding hosted there if that's something you'd be into. It's definitely worth going to check out.
Now back to the road leading to the house, the Dark Hedges. So the road already looks spooky enough, especially at night or when it's foggy, but it would be a waste of a location if there wasn't at least one ghost there. And there is, of course. According to the legend, there is a gray lady wandering the street under the trees, and she always vanishes when she reaches the last beech tree. The photographer even claims to have snatched a photo of the ghost, so we'll have to post it so you can tell us what you think about it. What are your thoughts?
You know what my first thought was when I saw it? It looks like a very blurry photo. Well, the photo itself isn't blurry. The trees are not blurry. But it looks like a blurry image of those Halloween decoration ghosts made of super thin fabric. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, because it's a really beautiful photograph, but then it looks kind of like, in the mid upper left area, it looks like there's a clear beach ball with some diaphanous fabric tied around it with fishing line. I'm not saying that that's what it is, but it could be, maybe.
Yeah.
A little bit. Some people think this is the spirit of a female member of the Stewart family who has been wandering her home for eternity. Others think she was a maid at either Grace Hill House or the close-by village. And the third possibility is, of course, that she is the ghost of a woman laid to rest at a nearby cemetery who was then since abandoned. The people who support this theory also say that every Halloween, the Grey Lady is joined by other restless spirits from said graveyard, and together they spook the nightly visitors of the Dark Hedges. Needless to say that the place is one of the most beloved spots to visit on Halloween. But before you go there and look for the Grey Lady yourself, let us tell you just one really important thing. The Dark Hedges have faced a lot of challenges, such as damage to the trees and soil compaction, due to an increased number of visitors. And so, in response, conservation efforts have been undertaken to preserve the health and longevity of these trees. Measures include the planting of new beech trees and managing visitor access. So, please go and visit them, but be mindful when you do and respectful and save the trees. The UK just had a really heavy hit when I was over. Some terrible person cut down a really ancient tree, and it's just
the Robin Hood tree,
Hadrian's Wall.
Yeah.
It's just protect the trees and all of the beautiful places. Just be respectful, please. Not that any of our listeners ever would, but just always be the good example for others. While you're doing your looky-looing, and also be safe out there on the road, please. And let us know if you've ever traveled one of these roads. Did you encounter something spooky or any other roads?
Something good. I don't know if mine's something good or something really stupid I did or scary. I don't know. Like last week, I had this kind of moment where I'm running on the treadmill, right? I told you all about it.
Mm-hmm.
Became this kind of, like, something happened and it became enjoyable for the first time ever. And I felt like I could go running way longer at this moment.
That's great.
Which got me really... It was this kind of like people describe as a runner's high in a way, I think.
Yeah.
A small runner's high.
Never experienced that myself, but I do understand it's a thing.
I was super motivated and I thought, well, look, I'm really making progress. I gotta sign up for a race. I signed up for a race that's happening on Sylvester, so before New Year's Eve, the day of New Year's Eve, running the whole length of the Viennese Ring, which used to be the city wall, which, was around the inner district, 5.3 kilometers. And I thought that's a great idea. And I even told my friend in Germany about it. And she was like, you know what? I just signed up as well. I'm coming over. I'm running with you, which I found so lovely, honestly amazing. And today I was running on a treadmill and it was horrible. Like I suffered for every step and I could barely make it to 3.5 kilometers. And I was like, what did I get myself into it? Like, I know there's setbacks when you're starting out to run and these things. But it was so kind of saddening because I thought last time, well, I really got this. I finally managed to, enjoy it. And it was not enjoyable at all today.
Oh, I think that you're going to have days like that, though, right?
I think it's normal. And I think the best thing is to, just keep going.
That's it. That's all you can do. It's like, I don't know if I've mentioned it yet on the podcast, but I was recently at the age of 46 diagnosed with ADHD. And one of the most interesting things that I kind of keep with me in my head that I've heard in relation to that diagnosis is just persistence, not perfection. I keep telling myself that because now I know that I will never have. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, I'm going to stop trying to develop routines because I've been trying and failing for 46 years. And even little things that we do on the podcast, you probably think all the time, how can she not remember to do that? It's so frustrating. And it's just been this really interesting, weird, almost reevaluating my entire life in this new lens. Do you know what I mean? So
I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that you're going to nail it. I think you've still got several months to go and you just keep chasing that runner's high. You're going to find it again and you're going to find it more regularly, I think.
So what's your something good?
So mine is my family. I know this is lame and I say this all the time, and I've touched on this a little bit since I was away, but just my ever-expanding family. I'm just feeling profoundly grateful to have so many people that I love so much in my life and to have been able to spend time with so many of them over the past 3 weeks. We initially left on September 11th. We flew out to the UK to say goodbye to my really, really amazing mother-in-law, who we lost a year ago. And she was an incredible woman who was not just like my mother-in-law, but also really a second mom and also a really trusted friend. And those things are, I think, very rare to find, that combination.
Very.
Truly.
Yeah.
I really think that I was incredibly just so blessed. And all of her family are over in the UK, and they're wonderful. And on the day we flew out, that was the day of the funeral for my 33-year-old cousin, my birth family on my biological side. And he was just the nicest guy. And he was killed camping with his fiancée, and a tree fell on their tent. Just such a freak situation, but really my grief for him is more wrapped into my grief at knowing what his family is feeling.
Yeah.
And it's just really brought back how hard it was when I was widowed at 28, because when my first husband was killed, he was a month away from turning 33. He was 32, so the same age as my cousin Joshua. And it's just 18 years later, my late husband's sister is like my sister. Like, I couldn't be any closer to her than, they're my family. And I'm just so profoundly grateful for that. And then I was able to reconnect with a family friend, Colette. She came to live with us for a summer on Cape Cod back in the 90s. She was 11 and I had just turned 13. And so she came over. It was a program to get kids out of Northern Ireland during the peak of the Troubles. And we lost touch, but luckily found each other again on Facebook. Facebook, for all its problems, has a lot of really great...
Yeah. I found my friend from Germany on Facebook again as well. We used to work together in Mexico. Mm-hmm.
Right? And so I've been chatting with Colette since pre-COVID, and I knew we were totally compatible friends-wise, but I didn't know until we actually met in person again. She's just so warm and funny and has the most contagious laugh, and she's just brilliant. Her kids are brilliant. Shout out to everybody, especially to TA, who's old enough to listen. And I really had such a good time with my dad. This is the first trip I have ever taken that was just me and my dad. I took many, many with my mom, but have never taken just a trip with my dad. And we had a great time. And I think it's the start of more trips to come, I have a lot of trips coming in the next year. I'm getting a little bit panicky sometimes when I look at the calendar and I look at my savings account, which I'm like, who needs a savings account? Not me. But, it's a lot of stuff that was delayed by COVID.
And I've just got trips to mark special birthdays and anniversaries and big life events, trips with people I've never traveled with before or visited before. So I'm really not regretting going broke at all. I have no regrets at all. Like none. Because, I just want Joshua's passing to remind me, like, I know better, and I think I got a little bit complacent, especially during COVID. And I think losing Joshua has just really kicked me in the butt again and reminded me that, I can't assume that I have more time to spend with him and meet him, more time to do this, and it's not a given. And I know it's not a given. I have lost so many really beautiful young people in my life, and I know better than to waste the time that I have now. So yeah, there might be the occasional pause while I sprint off somewhere, but like, as long as I'm stable enough medically and not in the hospital a lot, I just got to do it.
Yeah.
I just got to do it. I think everybody listening can understand that feeling. I missed
Definitely.
you. I'm excited to be back.
I missed you so much too.
I missed
Really?
yeah, I really missed you. I was running. It was nice we were on the same continent though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was wild.
You were awake when I was awake in the morning, which was weird.
I know.
Weird.
And then I was waiting constantly for my family here in the States to wake up. And I'm like, how do you deal with this all day? It's like, wake up. Takes forever. It's a good thing because I'm most productive in the morning. And then I lose all productivity as the day goes on. So it's
Yeah, I'm the other way around. I'm like, last minute person in the evening.
Yeah.
Quick.
That's perfect for how we do our...
I told you so often, we're yin and yang.
That's right. I hope.
I hope. If you enjoyed this episode or any of our older episodes or any of our upcoming episodes, please do us the huge favor. Go to your favorite or not favorite or to all your podcast apps and check if you can leave us a rating and or review. Other than that, we're gonna set a date for the Patreon Murder Tier get-together in October. Don't worry. And for all the other information, go to our webpage, freshhellpodcast.com, because we're tired of talking right now. Please, tell your pets we said hi. Hug them, cuddle them, kiss them, take them to the vet. I just had Jem's teeth cleaned, so he has super nice teeth again. And be kind to them. Be kind to other human beings. Be kind to ghosts and witches and ghouls, because it's spooky fuckery month. And the hardest part of it all, be kind to yourself.
That's right. And if you are going through hell,
sit down and enjoy, because it's October. Tschüss.
Bye.